It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 341. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Hello.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
This water tastes improper.
I don't know what that's from.
It's from Super Adventure Box.
Okay. So last week I briefly talked about Diablo 3 Season 23, and I kind of want to reprise that quickly. Basically, this is the easiest season I've ever experienced.
I would definitely agree with that.
And what makes it so easy is that basically all of the things that speed your way through content can be stacked on your follower now, so that you can clear faster solo than you really can clear with like even a duo, which is weird. Like, it's backwards.
Yeah, it was actually almost a little frustrating, especially at the beginning, to run things together.
Right.
Because I felt like I was slower, not as powerful, and missing out on bonus loot.
Yep. Yeah. So, like, I don't know what this season will have done to static 4-player grouping, because, like, I definitely felt weaker without my follower than I did with. Because, like, there's a lot of survival I was getting from my follower.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that would mitigate that. If you had a static 4-player group and you were actually planning for balance, I think you would still be way stronger that way.
Probably, yeah.
But just with a random 2-player group with whatever builds we felt like, it was not as good.
But, I mean, like, what made it so easy is the fact that, like, even when our hours didn't synchronize, it wasn't any slower to clear. In fact, it was probably faster to clear. And, like, this is the first time ever I have technically made it through the season's journey faster than Grace.
True.
It is a first. And also, that's part of the fact that, like, Whirlwind Barb is just, like, a really stupidly powerful and easy build. And once I was given enough survival from my Templar, I could just wreck content. But yeah, so we ended up doing the Divinity, which is Reach, Greater Rift, 75 solo. What is it? Is it Speed Demon? Is that what it's called?
I think so. I forget which one is the hardcore and which one is the softcore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so basically it's do a Torment 10 Rift in 2 minutes or less. That took some luck, but I think that one always does take luck.
Yeah,
because,
I mean, that
like,
one.
Some maps are just bad.
Yeah, you need to get the right map with the right density, and then you're golden.
And then once again, we did Avarice, which is just a nonsensical conquest.
Yeah, and so I think having those 3 available definitely also sped up the season because they're 3 of the easier ones. But I think I am now going to move myself into the camp of I'm not going to try ever again to do the bounty farming version of that conquest, because now that followers have gear, the survivability is good, the clear is good. I ran through, and also now that the torments go up to 16, which has been for a while, but I could clear that in the ruins of Corvus. I hadn't even fully leveled up my gold Boon of the Hoarder gem, and I got it on the first try. So I'm not doing those stupid boxes ever again.
And for those who aren't aware of what Avarice is, it's basically you have to loot a streak of 50 million gold without the streak breaking. And the cheesy way of doing it that I did it, and we've done it numerous times, is you farm up a bunch of bounty caches, dump them in the bank, and then open all the boxes at once. And then the first time you move after opening all the boxes, you basically get a bunch of gold. So you just have to calculate how many boxes you need. And then I ended up doing 10 Torment 13 boxes and 30 Torment 16 boxes. But like, that's representative of a bunch of rounds of bounties. And each round of bounties is usually at best, especially if you're soloing, like 30 minutes a time. Like, it's real hard to do a round of bounties in less than 30 minutes.
Solo,
yeah. Like
most seasons, I would just join random groups for them, and 4 people doing bounties together knocks them out real quick.
Well, we were doing them like duo, and it was pretty quick too, because like we'd basically each take an act and then do each of the bosses. But the problem with this season was there's a lot of inherent server instability. So like, when I was loading up my inventory with boxes from my bank, just about to start the Avarice opening, I crashed the desktop. And like, that happened several times when I had a bounty open. And crashing to desktop means basically resetting progress, so you lost that bounty. And like, what we used to do was do all of the bounties except for the bosses, and then run through and do all the bosses real quick. But that means you're hanging open 5 bounties, and if you crash out during the middle of that, you basically lost 5 bounties worth of progress. So like, this season, the instability has been a problem.
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. I think I had less issues with it than you did. I think I had the first crash between the two of us, but then I didn't have as many after that as you did.
Well, and when we were together, it was less risky, because like, usually it's unlikely that both will crash out at the same time, and then one of the players can join back. But like, yeah, on my solos, like, basically I could get through 4 of the 5 zones before I'd experience a crash. So I think it's some kind of a memory leak bug, because it definitely seemed to be worse the longer I was on.
Yeah. What kept happening to me, every crash I had was in a Greater Rift. And what would always happen was I would be running around, and then the game would just stop responding. Like, I could still run around, but enemies weren't moving, abilities weren't firing, and like, it would never recover. I just have to Control-Alt-Delete and kill the game myself.
What follower were you running, Thalen?
Enchantress.
Okay, well then that doesn't make sense, because we're all running different followers.
Yep.
I thought maybe like one follower was worse than the others, because like, I was running Templar, and the behavior was that like, like after 4 rounds of bounties, the 5th one I would almost always crash out on. You're crashing out in Greater Rifts while using Enchantress. Grace is using...
I was using the Scoundrel. I honestly only crashed twice, I think, the whole season. So I don't know if it was that I was playing in relatively short bursts at a time. I don't know whether the Scoundrel was not as bad. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely did not crash as much as it seems like you folks were.
It's very sad making.
If this is a season that you want to get more boxes, especially if you've not unlocked all your vaults, this might be a good season to do it. Just because, like I said last week, the Hadrig's gift sets are like a greatest hits collection of available sets. And like, they're super powerful. And a lot of the sets are the ones that can clear Greater Rift hundreds, with minor modifications. So I mean, this would be a instant power season, because like, as soon as we got our 6-piece, we were immediately on like Torment 13. It seemed like, at least Torment 10.
Oh yeah, as soon as I got my 6-piece, I basically went and did my GR70 to let primals start dropping. It was silly, especially with the follower.
Well, and I lucked out and got a good primal. Then I got some horrible primals as well. I ended up getting a primal Kimbo's Gold, which is just about useless. And then I got
feels bad.
A primal Pledge of Chaldeum, which is like one of the two-handed spears that has no special things on it really.
Womp womp.
Yeah, but I did get a primal main hand for my build, the one I was wanting to run. So that was a lot of power in a single drop.
I got the offhand for my build, but I didn't get that one until basically the end of the season. So mostly I'm looking forward to that on my non-seasonal character that already has 3 or 4 pieces of that whole build in Primal Ancient. Just adding one more bit of icing to that cake.
Because you've got a Primal Yangs to go with it, don't you?
Yeah.
The other fun thing that happened this season is I hit a run when I was doing a single round of bounties and got 3 Menagerous Goblins in a row, and found out that I still am apparently missing 3 pets from getting them all. But it's a good season. The other thing that's happening right now is that there's a Diablo 2 technical alpha, and I am not in it. And
Diablo
I do know
2?
some Diablo 2. Yeah, the Diablo 2 Resurrected Edition remaster thing that they're working on. And that's going on this weekend. I guess you could play 2 of the acts. I've watched some of it, and mostly my general takeaway has been, wow, Diablo 3 is a much better game than Diablo 2. This looks really pretty, but it's still Diablo 2. It's apparently very accurate to Diablo 2.
I part of me really wants to try it because it's more Diablo, and the other part of me says, no, I don't. I'm happy with the way Diablo 3 works, the way I play it, and I'm not actually interested in that old paradigm of how all the systems worked.
Yeah, I was watching a couple playthroughs as people were streaming it, and there's just so many nuisances that they had to deal with that were just, oh, well, this is an older game. This is Diablo 2. There was a lot of running around that felt needless when, it's travel just in general works so much better. You don't have to have a town's portal scroll. You don't have to identify items in Diablo 3. Well, you do, but there's a book. It's not that you, because almost everybody that I watched reached a point where they were so broke that they did not have the gold to buy a scroll of identification.
Scrolls, yeah. Scrolls of Town Portal and Scrolls of Identification. That used to be a thing.
So, yeah, I am interested to see it, but also I think me and Diablo 2 may have been a ship that's already sailed long, long ago. Another thing that came out this week is Cozy Grove by Spry Fox.
Ghost Bears. I am enjoying this game immensely. The timing was perfect because I just finished the Diablo season when this came out. But yeah, what if Animal Crossing, but your island is haunted by ghost bears?
And they're basically like the cute bears from Alpha Bear or Bushido Bear, but they're ghosts now.
They're Spry Fox Bears.
They're Spry Fox Bears, yeah.
Yeah, everything about this game is adorable. It's only been out for a few days, and in that style of game, of course, you're limited in what you can do on any given day. But it's very cute. You sort of help the ghost bears, and then the black and white parts of the island get colorized for the day, and everything is pretty. Yeah, it reminded me that I should make sure that I have friends because having friends is the only way that we can survive late-stage capitalism.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lesson feels more relevant every day.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think it ticks all the boxes for this sort of game. I'm crafting things and fishing and collecting stuff for a collection and wearing cute outfits. And Belle will be happy that there's seems to be a reasonable selection of beards.
Nice. I played a tiny bit of this, and my only initial disappointment is that it appears to be locked to a day-night timer.
Yeah, it seems to be locked to a real local time day-night timer, and obviously the day-to-day locks of what you can accomplish. But so far, I have not encountered anything that was only available at a specific time of day. I'm sure there probably exists something, but I'm not far along to have seen that. But yeah, just super cute, very, very chill, and full of ghost bears. I don't know what else you could want.
It is really cheap.
Yes. I saw the game announced and said, yes, I will buy this game. And then I saw what the price was, just like $13, and said, yes, I will buy this game immediately without hesitation.
Now, is this a game on Switch or is this a game on another platform?
It's on Switch. I think it's on the Epic Store. I'm not sure what else it's available on.
Steam, iOS, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation 4. I don't think it's on Android. I think it's pretty much on everything else.
What do I know Spry Fox for?
Alpha Bears. Also,
The Road Not Taken, I believe?
Realm of the Mad God and Steambird's Alliance.
Okay.
Like, great studio. Like, they've done a lot of high quality stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't into Bushido Bear, but like, it was cute and it was well made. And Road Not Taken is a really good game. Like, I think it was like
I loved Road Not Taken.
I think I played it on Sony something PS4 maybe, because I think it was like a PS Plus game at one point.
I think that's accurate. That sounds right.
The only problem that I have is, so there's this mechanic in the game where the world goes back and forth between being in black and white mode and being in color mode. And I personally find it very hard to pick out interactables when it's in black and white mode. And sometimes that's not a problem, but like when you're doing quests for somebody, it tends to shift the world back into black and white mode. So like I just had trouble finding like clumps of dirt on the ground or leaves to interact with, because like it kind of blends into everything else in the background.
Yeah, I definitely had that issue for a bit. I think now that I've been playing it for a couple of days, my eye has been trained to recognize those things a little bit better, and so I'm having less trouble with it.
I mean, the art style is very Don't Starve, is what it reminds me of, kind of. And as a result, like, it's line drawings that are colored in, but like a lot of the line drawings all kind of fade together, and it doesn't have a clear indication of, it doesn't have the Scooby-Doo thing where the object you're interacting with is slightly different colored than the rest of the background.
So it's kind of like ESO before you get the perks?
Yeah, I think so.
You probably had your characters all have the perks along. ESO is just about impossible to see stuff in.
Right, yeah, because you basically have to know what each tier of wood looks like or what each tier of stone looks like, etc. Yeah, because that's usually the first thing I do is buy the perks that at least give it a faint glow. I wish that were account-wide. Like, that once you unlocked it, it became a perk for all of your characters.
You have to spill a skill point, though. There's plenty of skill points in that game.
Yeah.
In Cozy Grove, I think the other thing that is helpful is if you are near something and hit the interact button, it will move you next to it, and then, the little A button will pop up on the Switch at least, so that you can interact with the thing.
I got to give them massive credit, too, because they have a really good ungendered character creator.
Yes. I like the character creator, and there's no restrictions or limitations on any of the cosmetic gear and options. It's nice. Every game should just do this. I don't know why they don't.
So another thing that's been going on is Super Adventure Box.
Yes. So Guild Wars 2, many years ago for April Fool's Day, had this thing called Super Adventure Box. And it is an entire, 8-bit aesthetic platformer within
Not
Guild Wars 2.
8-bit.
I guess 16.
64-bit. Let's be clear. This feels like an N64 game.
That's true. It is still 3D, so I guess it couldn't be earlier than 64-bit really. But it's like lots of references to old video games. And it was so popular, this April Fool's joke, that it eventually came back as a regular yearly festival. And sadly, the dev that was basically entirely the champion of this thing, this was his idea and his baby, was laid off many years ago. So who knows if we will ever get the promised Worlds 3 and 4. But there are 2 worlds, 3 zones each, and they're really fun 3D platforming with lots of exploration and discovery and blocky pixel monkeys and turtles and spiders and bananas and things that attack you, and bears. Lots of collections, equipment to find and upgrade, and also there are 3 difficulties. There's regular mode, which is pretty normal, platforming, exploration, all of that. There's infantile mode, which gives you, basically it scatters clouds all throughout the levels that poop out rainbow bridges and lets you bypass a lot of the platforming. And then there's Tribulation Mode. And Tribulation Mode is evil. This is this is explicitly inspired by things like I Want to Be the Guy. Platformers that hide things and basically that are unfair in so much as you are going to die to things that you just can't know were there, and you have to basically memorize the appropriate path and then properly execute it to get to the end. And it's really, really hard, but boy does it feel good when you complete one of the levels in Tribulation Mode. I did the very first zone of the first world the other night in Tribulation Mode. It took me 150 lives, but it was a lot of fun. And yeah, and I'm not a huge platformer nerd the way Kodra is. Kodra is the platformer aficionado around here, so I'm going to be interested to hear once he's had the chance to play a decent bit of it, what his feelings are on it. I really dig it.
A very big difference between 3D platforming and 2D platforming, though. I'm much better at 2D platforming, where I'm really only going in 2 directions.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going in a whole bunch of different directions, but there's a lot less to handle. That said, I'm playing a lot of Mario Galaxy and Mario Sunshine because I got the Mario 35-year pack, which, boy, that was a great value. Love that thing. But, no, it is... Those parts fun. I think I must be playing normal mode because I am not seeing any of these rainbow bridges you're mentioning.
Yeah, if you didn't explicitly activate infantile or tribulation, then you're in normal mode.
Cool.
Basically, when you go into the world, in the initial room, there's a dude right in front of you that sends you into normal mode, and then to your left, there's a happy cloud, and to your right, there's an angry cloud. The happy cloud gives you infantile. The angry cloud gives you tribulation.
Nice.
I also feel like they did a really good job of designing the worlds to introduce new concepts, like like at the very beginning of the game, there's food right around you. There's a key right nearby that opens a chest that's right in front of the key. There's, a shop pretty early on that, introduces that. A little further on in the second zone, you get introduced to the improper water when a shopkeeper who is standing there, drinks some of it and says, "This water tastes improper," and then keels over and dies.
I can't understand what he's saying in this game. It's all like, how do you read that?
It's all in Asuran, but it shows up in English in your chat box. If you have NPC chat turned on.
That must be it.
I mean, if you can learn the Asuran characters, it's a simple substitution. But I would just turn NPC chat on if you don't have it on.
Really,
it's definitely one of those. Somebody had a crazy idea, and then we put it in front of players.
I am curious.
It has been beloved ever since.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever get better than a stick?
You get chain sticks, which they don't hit any harder, but they have a longer range and attack slightly faster.
If I remember correctly, when this first went in, it was only like available for 24, 48 hours, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was an April Fool's gag.
Most overdeveloped April Fool's gag I've ever seen.
Yeah, because the entire first world was there. And the first world, like, none of the zones in the first world are really long. But, I mean, they're full zones with, like, between, like, 5 and 8 checkpoints each. And then when they brought it back and added World 2, the World 2 zones get pretty nuts. Like, they're huge.
It is legitimately bonkers to me that this is a thing.
Like this has been like the entirety of what I've been doing in Guild Wars 2 this week, pretty much. Like, I go do my regular dailies, to get my 2 gold, and then I spend time in Super Adventure Box.
There's a ton of random stuff to do. It makes me think of some of the weirder, like designer zones. Like, there's definitely in development. You just need a space to try stuff out and like test your scripts. And depending on how much like time and effort you put into it, some people have like, especially because we worked on ESO, for example, for years. You're like, all right, I need to make sure that this house works. And so you put a house in there, and then you furnish the house. And it's like, by the time you're done, you have these weird little test zones. And since you need to take them, since you need to have them, you're like, what if you just made it nice? And this is what this feels like to me. It's like somebody took a designer test zone, like a designer with a weird sense of humor's test zone, and then just like turned it into a full level experience.
And what's really hilarious to me is like this full platforming game is within a game that didn't originally have any sort of platforming. Like jumping puzzles didn't exist when they initially like previewed the zones back in the day. Like they kind of retrofitted those into the zones at the last minute. And
well, so some of the vistas were bordering on what could be considered a jumping puzzle.
Yeah. And
those were in day one, but yeah, like the actual jumping puzzles.
Turns out jumping is a fun thing to do in this game.
I'm not sure if I agree. I did not love the jumping puzzles, but I also did not love the jumping puzzles in Rift, and that's what they remind me of.
That's fair. It's one of those things where it's like, if you make movement a verb, like an actually realized verb that makes you think about things, then you get more stuff. Like,
well, we have a third dimension. We should use it.
yeah, like it's one of those reasons why I'm so big on movement in games is if you have good movement, you can make movement itself gameplay. And there's the like extreme versions of this where you've got a racing game, or similar.
Which, again, Guild Wars 2 has done. We have, roller beetle racing, which has been added into existing zones throughout the world.
Yeah, it's always neat to me to see like what can you do? What can you do when you give people more things to play with, more verbs, more options?
So also Super Adventure Box is something that is completely divorced from normal gameplay in every respect. So you could theoretically, if you have never played Guild Wars 2 before, like just, download, log in, create a level 1 character, and jump in and play Super Adventure Zone if you want to try it out. Just, suggestion for anyone who's out there who might want some platforming fun.
Yeah, like you really don't need to know anything about Guild Wars for it to make sense. Or really, honestly, knowing anything about Guild Wars isn't going to help you in any way at all.
Like, Asurans are weird. Like, that's pretty much the only connection. Okay, I think you can safely segue now, Bill.
Okay. I was trying real hard. So this one kind of came from out of left field, and no one other than me is prepared for this topic. But something happened this week that I found terribly interesting. For, I don't know, since 1999, or there has been a rumor that there is a Castlevania game that is a semi-sequel to Symphony of the Night that was originally targeting the Dreamcast called Castlevania Resurrection.
I remember hearing about that.
The thing that made it really interesting is instead of being focused on the Belmont clan or Alucard, it was focused on Maria, which is a side character in Symphony of the Night and playable only on the Sega Saturn version. Actually, I think there may be a code you can put in on the PlayStation that allows you to play as her, but like she is not selectable on anything other than the Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been rumored, but like was canceled when Dreamcast, died the death of piracy. And no one had a clue if it actually existed. Like there was I don't think there were even any screenshots of it. But somehow this week, a early build of the game showed up and a video ended up on YouTube with somebody playing through the game a little bit. It turns out this was only a ploy to basically raise interest before putting it up on eBay.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what it is going for right now. When I looked at it, it was $6,000.
I was going to say a whole lot. I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a whole lot. This ends up in this weird area of like the first thing I did as a reaction was post the Indiana Jones "This belongs in a museum" meme.
Mm-hmm.
Because really this is a part of game history, and like it shouldn't probably be in somebody's private collection, or at least should be ripped first so that other people can see what this game's like.
Like this is something that the Internet Archive should do a fundraiser to try and get it.
And I think that's being organized. I will happily chip in if I find out that that's a thing, is that they're trying to raise it to basically put it in for archival purposes. But like, it made me think of the Nintendo PlayStation, which also was in the hand of private owners and similarly had a campaign to raise enough money to basically put it in a museum. And that's who finally was able to acquire it was, I forget the name of the museum, but it's a console museum that now has the Nintendo PlayStation after Ben Hackendorn and a bunch of other people managed to get it working to where it would load games.
Like, wasn't that somebody found that in their dad's attic?
Yep. It was found in somebody's dad's attic, then sold to someone that really was just like a vague console collector, but knew like I remember seeing a picture of the Nintendo PlayStation in Nintendo Power magazine.
Yeah.
And the unit looks like that. So, but like that gets into the whole discussion of games preservation as a whole. Because there's been this whole movement to basically try and dump as many games as folks have found. It's like, if you think about any given cartridge, there's a bunch of different versions of that cartridge circulating. And there's been an attempt to basically like archive as many of them as possible so that you can explore the differences between two different versions of the same game.
Yeah. Well, I think games preservation has been like really, especially like in the public eye recently, because first, Nintendo took down the Mario 35th anniversary. So, that's no longer available to purchase and may just disappear entirely at some point. And Sony has announced that they're going to be taking down the PlayStation 3 and Vita stores, like entirely. You will no longer be able to purchase those games or any DLC for them or anything.
And I know in that example, there is a project, I don't know how far along it is, to basically create an emulated storefront to where you could redirect a PlayStation or a Vita to someone else's version of the storefront, and it would still function.
It also makes me think of, like there's plenty of online-only games that have just, disappeared entirely from the world.
The biggest one was the death of the GameSpy servers. Took out so many games, several of which have never gotten a new version.
Yeah, or like on a personal note, Marvel Heroes. Like, that's a game that I loved and spent quite a bit of money on, and it's just gone. Like, there's no way to play it.
Someone is apparently actively working on an emulation project for that.
Well, good luck not getting sued by Disney.
Yeah, I know, but I really want it to happen. I loved Marvel Heroes. I still have Marvel Heroes installed on my laptop.
I miss it so much.
It was so good. It was like that. That's what I want to play instead of Diablo 2. I want to play Marvel Heroes.
Well, and there was a rumor about it, like getting a licensed re-release.
Like it would be nice with Disney having basically reacquired the movie rights for all of those characters if they would maybe bring it back. But I don't know.
It was somewhat profitable, and everything that I am seeing about Avengers is that it's just a dumpster fire. And that is not going to be profitable in the long run. So if Disney wants a way of selling DLC characters, then Marvel Heroes was a good one. But yeah, like we're going into some weird times, and what I find interesting is how the maker community has stepped up to the plate to build things to plug the gaps. So like a lot of these consoles that were CD-ROM based, there is a ever waning supply of new old stock of the CD-ROM drives. And there's just like they will eventually die. Like there is no, it is only a matter of time on, a console like that uses a CD-ROM before that drive is no longer going to read a disc.
Yeah. There are mechanical parts that will eventually fail.
And because of that, and the fact that it's real hard to get like a Giga ROM now for like a Dreamcast, it's getting hard to get Sony PlayStation new old stock. You basically get one that's been pulled out of a unit, and again, how long that's going to last. So people have basically stepped up to the plate and build a combination of custom PCBs and standard Raspberry Pi-esque parts to create drive emulators that will basically make the console think it's got a drive in it, but it's actually got an SD card.
Aha.
And I know one of those exists for the Dreamcast, one of them exists for the PlayStation, and there's one for the Neo Geo CD. And I really want to get the Neo Geo CD one because apparently if you have that, it fixes the key flaw of that platform, the fact that it had a 1x speed drive.
Yeah.
I have a Neo Geo CD. it would take forever to load a level.
Well, that's also good because eventually all those CDs are going to stop working.
Right.
Like they're
going to die. Yeah, so like you could basically put, I mean, they've got them for like the Sega CD as well. And of a decent sized SD card, you can essentially hold the entire library of everything that was released for Sega CD on a single SD card, along with everything that was ever released for the Genesis and the 32X. And there's a lot of collectors that own the physical games, but do this mod anyway, so that they're not like putting wear and tear on the drives and the CDs. And because it's not just a matter of the drives wearing out. It's like every time that CD's read, it's damaging it a little bit. It's just going to be interesting to see how these solutions are solved. I'm extra concerned about PC gaming. Console has a lot of supporters behind it that are looking for ways to preserve this going forward. PC games are kind of rough because, they're designed for a specific system to run them within a certain period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think that it's less. I think the difficulty is less that because like console games kind of are too, but like what the constraints are on a console.
Yeah, you only have to emulate one console.
Whereas like what kind of PC would you need to preserve Arx Fatalis or the original Quake?
Mm-hmm. Especially when you've got those older games that took their timing off of the CPU, and so try to run them on anything that's too modern and just run at super speed. DOSBox is kind of fixed that, but it's not perfect.
DOSBox is a partial solution.
Yeah,
there's still a lot of people that build new old hardware to run these games on just because they don't quite work right. Emulated.
I have absolutely done this in the past. I don't currently own such a system, but I did have a system with an underclocked CPU and a 5 1/4-inch disk drive specifically so that I could still play Wing Commander.
I really wonder, it makes me think of early movies. What, how are those preserved? Do we even have
And the problem with early movies is the film stock they were shot on eventually turned to vinegar.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it didn't, catch fire and explode.
Yeah.
Yes, because they're extremely flammable.
Like there are many many movies that are like famously lost, or most of the footage is famously lost. I mean, the Magnificent Ambersons is one of the huge examples of that. That like all of the additional footage that Wells shot for that would have been used if before the studio butchered it is just gone. They just tossed it all. Well, we'll never know what the real movie was like.
Well, and I mean, even more modern times, there was an entire season of the second Doctor in Doctor Who that's just that was lost to time.
Yeah,
and they were only able to find it because some random person recorded like everything that was on television for like, I don't know, like an 8-year block. And just had boxes and boxes and boxes of VHS tapes.
Well, and there's still a fair bit of it's the second Doctor in particular, but there's still a good number of episodes that are just lost, and we assume will never be found. Like
right, like I know there's
places to look.
I know there's some that we have audio for, and someone has come through and animated it.
Yeah, I think we have audio for every episode at this point.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to say there's still around 30 episodes total, and the majority of those are second Doctor episodes that there is no known recording. A lot of those they were able to find. They found them in other countries that still had the tapes, because what it was the BBC had a policy of erasing and reusing those tapes. So the BBC didn't have any of it. But Britain colonized a lot of countries, and so a lot of those countries aired Doctor
Yeah,
Who.
like I don't remember the specifics, but it was like this little old lady that recorded like everything that was on television, like just random stuff that was on television, like commercials, like just obsessively, recorded all of television for a period of time.
Or another example that I read about recently, it was for the anniversary edition of Citizen Kane. This guy that does film restoration, like, basically got sent every single like bit of footage in every single medium that they had of Citizen Kane, and was asked to just to put together a high quality remaster of it. And mostly he was able to do it, but there's like a 12-second section that he just couldn't find a good bit, and he asked them, it's like, why don't you go back to the masters for this? Like, this, like, the best I can do here has just massive scratches on it. It's awful. And apparently part of the reason they were doing it the way they were is the masters were supposed to be the masters were missing, and they were supposedly destroyed in a fire. But actually, it seems like what happened, like based on what he was able to determine from this and what people told him, somebody sent them to a reclamation facility, like thinking, okay, to reclaim these for use. No, they sent them to a silver reclamation plant that reclaimed the silver from the silver nitrate on the film.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's what actually happened to the original film of Citizen Kane, apparently, if this guy's to be believed. And the person who was responsible for this was like desperate to do something to have a good version and not have to like come forward about this.
Well, and the thing that I find so interesting, and this has come up time and time and time again, to where no one has the source code for various games.
Yeah.
Because, like, apparently that just wasn't a thing that was saved.
I mean, GitHub didn't exist back then.
Yeah, but, like, okay, my entire career, we've used some sort of version control, even if it was just, like, VCS.
Yeah, but that takes, time and resources, and you got to have somewhere to store that stuff, and, who's going to pay for that?
Well, like, I'm drawing a blank on the YouTuber, vintage gamer guy ended up buying an IBM PC that was from Sierra Online's office. Ooh. And was able to recover parts of the hard drive, and there were games that were like, there were obviously builds of games that eventually came out, but like there was nothing astounding on it, but it was a lot of stuff that was just left on the hard drive when it was shipped off to this place in Dallas.
Yeah, we were somewhat more cavalier about
data
protection back in the day.
Security in general, we were pretty lax about information security back in the day.
Well, and I know that's like the problem with Final Fantasy VIII, supposedly, is there were chunks missing from the source.
I believe it.
Because it wasn't on any other platforms for a really long time, other than the versions that were out. And I don't know what they did to get a workable code version, but that just happened not long ago. But, like, I think this is just a thing that happens anytime a new medium is young, is they more or less are treated like it's a disposable experience.
Yeah.
I mean, because film was that way, television was that way, radio was that way, and there's like lots of archival stuff that's just missing.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, and we're talking shows from like the early 80s in this case, but one of the things that the dude that makes that Nickelodeon history video series that I talked about a while back, like one of the things he ran into with the early stuff is a lot of it's just not out there. Like there's one or two shows where he couldn't find any footage at all beyond like some like commercial clips and like press stuff, and a lot more where he was only able to find like maybe parts of a couple of episodes, or maybe one or two full episodes that people pulled off of old like VHS or Betamax tapes. So yeah, like there's a lot of lost medium even from our lifetime.
Right, and a lot of times a show had to be popular enough to get somebody to record it for there to be any kind of archive of it. Because, like, I have a friend that appeared on some dating game on MTV, and I don't remember which one. And she was wondering if in my powers I could find a copy of it. And, like, I found bits and pieces of that show run, but not the one she was actually on.
Like, that's one of those, if you or another contestant on that particular episode didn't record it, it's probably not out there.
Right, exactly. Like, because, like, that's not a thing that anybody would have recorded regularly.
Yeah, things like talk shows and game shows and things like that in particular. A lot of it's just gone forever.
Well, and like, to some extent, I've been on this weird Spotify kick over the last several days, and building this nonsensical playlist of just things that make me happy. It's like up to 60 hours worth of audio. And like, there's one band that I was wanting to add to it, and it was an offshoot. It was like one of those weird side projects that came out of God Lives Underwater, and I forget the other band, but it was a dude from each band, kind of like Palehead, which is a dude from Ministry and a dude from Fugazi, and that doesn't exist anywhere. It was a band called Wired All Wrong, and the only album that ever came out was Break Out the Battle Tapes, had a single release that charted it all off of it called Los Angeles. And like, it's nowhere to be found. Like, you can find it on YouTube, but not YouTube Music. Definitely, I mean, Google Music is gone. It's not on Amazon streaming. It's not on Spotify streaming. It's not on Tidal streaming. This album just doesn't exist for streaming purposes other than a sketchy upload on YouTube. And like, I'm sure that all comes down to weirdness over rights.
Probably,
but, like,
yeah.
As we move forward, like, that was a really great album, and it's just going to be gone, like, or effectively gone. Like, you can still get used copies of it, but like, it's effectively gone from the streaming digital world. So like, it doesn't surprise me at all when somebody uncovers like a recording. So I guess I'm going to break into this topic because it's been on our list for months now. The problem is when I first put it on there, I don't remember what it was that prompted me to originally put this topic on here. Basically, freeform versus guided gameplay.
I mean,
and I think mostly it's like, I have a favor of being able to step off the path and wander around. And
what does this mean for you?
So to me, like, guided gameplay is when a game has heavy tutorialization and really is trying to keep you on the path, like limits the choices you can make, keeps directing you back to the flow of the game. Whereas, Freeform is Skyrim, like the game that I didn't realize I could choose a class in until I had played at least 40, 50 hours of the game, because I never walked past those stones.
Oh, boy.
I was fine.
No. Just that you think that Skyrim has convinced you that it doesn't have tutorialization and isn't guiding you pretty much every step of the way is because it absolutely is.
It has things that it wants me to do, but also I was able to wander off and do my own thing constantly.
It doesn't force you to do them. It makes it pretty clear that, like, this is what you probably ought to be doing right now. Maybe you should go this way, really. But if you decide not to, it won't stop you.
I mean, like, when I first played Skyrim, it was very rare that I would get a quest that sent me someplace. More often than not, I'd already been there and murdered it all, and then got the quest, and then got limited repops that were related to the quest.
Yeah, but that's the core design of Skyrim is not about telling you a linear story. Like, that's the whole thing that it's doing, and it's doing a lot of work to guide you into a self-directed experience. Like the tutorial and the stuff that it does make you do is carefully positioned to drive you off of what looks like a beaten path, which I think is sort of the magic of Elder Scrolls games in a lot of cases, to the point where when they fail at that, it's notable. I think Oblivion being the weakest in this particular case, but like the number of people who like boot up an Elder Scrolls game or one of the Bethesda Fallout games and have the immediate reaction of, oh yeah, I saw what it was telling me to do, but I went off and did my own thing. It's like 80%.
Yeah. Well, like, it's Oblivion. You're supposed to go across a bridge when you get out of the jail at the beginning. I never went across that bridge, ever. Like, I know that's where I'm supposed to go, but I don't go there.
Well, Oblivion's even worse because you don't even I don't even remember a bridge, because it's like, hey, go here, and then you're immediately like, oh, how do I go there? Oh, hey, here's this cool thing that lets me just auto move. Like, I don't even need to like walk. I can just teleport across the map. And then you teleport across the map. I feel like as much freedom of movement as it gave you and was kind of a problem, because you could just like go to all of these disconnected set pieces and then get in way over your head.
But I don't necessarily think that's a problem.
It depends on, I mean, it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like when a game skimps on the tutorial and then you're frustrated because you don't understand how to play it.
Well, I was also going to say, like, yeah, it's similar to that, but I feel like Oblivion is an example of where it doesn't even support like the standard path. It's so open that it doesn't support like, I'm just going to go do these main story quests over and over.
I'm not even sure what the main story quests for Oblivion were.
I mean, you start by going to an inn to meet somebody. They tell you that they don't want to meet with you, and you should go into Oblivion, and then you go into Oblivion and get wrecked by scamps.
Yeah, I probably did these things, but like, it was so far after the fact that like I was super powerful at that point. Like, I guess the analogy for me is like, you remember in Jurassic Park where they're taking the ride in the explorers around to all the exhibits? Like, as soon as the game starts, I am looking to open the door to that car and get the hell out. Because like, it just kind of makes my eye twitch that like I'm having to follow. Like, it's different if I go into it knowing that it's a fully narrative experience. But like, if you show me in any hint of an open world, I'm like, yeah, no, just let me do the thing. And the biggest time this is just kept me from playing a game recently is Red Dead Redemption 2. And like, I know I've talked about this a little bit, but the way that Rockstar does an open world game is just not conducive to how I want to experience one.
Yeah. So what happens? I'm curious though. What happens when a game has stuff it needs to teach you about how to play it that you don't know going into it?
I Google it. If I run into a situation where like I don't know what I'm doing, I just Google it.
No, I mean like game mechanics.
Yeah, I Google it. Like, why is this not working this way? No, I Google it. Like, did I miss something? Sure, but you know, a quick Google will tell me what I missed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of games that have like core mechanics that, like Mirror's Edge, for example, is a good one where like that game has to teach you how to move around in its world, and it does so in this really controlled space before it lets you wander around.
Well, like, okay, this afternoon I was playing Outriders, and I'm sure the game probably told me this, but I missed it, and I was Googling, how do I get back to town? Because I couldn't figure out how to get back to town. once I had moved on to an external outpost.
Yeah.
And, like a quick 5-minute Google got me my answer, and I moved on with life.
Well, I mean, and the much more common reaction is people go, "This game sucks. It's too hard. I'm out."
Yeah.
Like that is by far the thing that happens the most when you have that. It's like, oh, there's too much. This game doesn't explain anything. It sucks. I'm out. I don't know how you rationalize.
My reaction is generally, oh, I must have not been paying attention when this was covered in class.
Yeah, that's definitely not the normal reaction.
Like it was told to me, but I wasn't in the mindset for it to make sense. So like, I'm just going to Google it because, I Google so many things in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. And like, I think about how games that are like doing something radically different have such a hard time getting a foothold.
Right. But I'm also the person that will go to great lengths to try and make every game have essentially the same interface.
Yeah. And if you run into a game that just doesn't, like, the game fundamentally won't work if you do that,
then I usually bounce.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it would be like, it seems like it would narrow the range of experiences.
Sure, but like I have 600 games that I haven't played.
Yeah.
Like I will never not have a game not to play. Like, and sure, I'll miss out on some of them, but like others, like the Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, like it is doing a thing that I don't want it to do. And that thing is, when I pick up a quest, it expects me to go do that quest right now. I have lived in a world where quest stacking is just the norm, and I don't want to have to go do that thing right now.
Oh man,
I want to wander into the I want to wander around the map, and if I happen to see an objective that I picked up 3 towns ago, I'll wander over there and do it. But I sure as hell don't want to be directed there.
I have always found the let's run around and get all of our quests and try and be efficient. Like, not a huge fan of that, actually.
Christmas tree effect.
Yeah.
That's just how I play games.
It doesn't make sense. Like, narratively,
it tends to overwhelm me.
Narratively, it's like, I have been asked to do something big and important. I should go do the big and important thing.
Nah.
I should be given, I want a game to be like, hey, you didn't do this quest, and now here's the consequences for your actions.
Oh, I hate that. That drives me insane when a game does that.
I mean, I feel like I'm this weird, I don't know if it's a hybrid, but sometimes I just want to wander around. Like, maybe I'm just not going to engage with any of those quests right now. Or like, maybe only if I know that it's a side quest. If they're marked differently. Like, sometimes I just want to go wander and explore or gather resources or craft things. Like, not engage with the main storyline. I mean, something like Horizon Zero Dawn, it's like wandering around, exploring the entire map, and then going back and basically mainlining the story until it was done. But I had done pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing in ESO is I actively avoid the icon that is the main story quest. And I do all of the side content, and then I will laser my way through the main story once I've experienced all the side content.
Yeah, I do tend to do that, particularly because you never know without verifying beforehand whether this is one of those games where maybe you can lock yourself out of some of those side quests if you advance the story too fast.
That has happened all too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to get into whatever story it is I'm playing, and going around and collecting a bunch of different quests always feels to me like I don't actually care about any of these stories. Like, there's no, I have completely divorced the story part from all of these because I'm just tracking 12 dots on my map, not whatever the narrative is.
Depending on the game, I might not care about the story. The quests are something that I check off, like that I'm going to do this thing and someone's going to give me some reward and that's fine and I'll move on to the next one. Some things, the quest is important, and I also feel like once it's over, I'm never going to go back and finish all those other side things in the world. So I want to make sure that I do them all first.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like when I'm playing a Yakuza game, like I absolutely, when I unlock a new chapter, I look for any new sub-stories that have unlocked, and I do all of them. And I do not do any more main story until I've cleared out the side stories. But also, the side stories are great. So, you know.
I mean, I feel like a lot of
those.
games, the side stories are oftentimes better than the main story.
A lot of times. That's where they get to have some fun. Or like, I just started recently replaying New Vegas again, because, you know, it's New Vegas and it's great.
Yeah.
And I'm like level 13, and I have not reached New Vegas yet. Like, I'm actively avoiding going to West Side. I've got a lot of other stuff available for me to do, and I'm going to do it first.
Yep. Yeah, because it's a long time until I finally arrive in New Vegas, or even the outskirts of New Vegas.
Like, I had to send some ghouls to the moon first. That's important.
That's the best quest in the game. I kind of made a beeline for it last time I was playing. I was like, I want to send ghouls to the moon. If it's Fallout 3, I'm going to go wipe out Tenpenny Tower.
Yes.
Now, when I play Fallout 3, I usually try and figure out a way for me to disarm the bomb so I can get a house.
Oh, the bomb in Megaton? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
can get a house early on.
Oh, yeah. No, I always create my character with sufficient skill points that I can very quickly, like, repair the water pipes and disarm the bomb and all that with no problem. Like, I know what I need to do. I've played this game enough times. I have a standard route for that first chunk of the game.
Yeah, similarly, I know where the book that gives me demolition is in Fallout New Vegas.
Yep.
So that I can get some dynamite. But yeah, like I guess this touched on what originally made me put it on there. I don't remember what game it was. It was probably Red Dead Redemption 2, because that was bothering me.
So what does Red Dead do?
So Red Dead, when you accept a quest, it's not like, okay, so the one that really did it to me was like, there's a quest that asked me to go kill a bear. Okay, sweet. I will take this quest to go kill a bear. Instead of it just highlighting where the region where the bear can be found and letting me roam around the woods until I find a bear, it was like, oh no, you're going to go on a hunting trip right now. And there's going to be like this whole campfire montage where you listen to some RP from an old dude that I don't care about, and he's going to tell me a story about like this bear hunt gone wrong. And then eventually, finally, 30 minutes later, I'm going to kill a bear.
Yeah, that's basically the GTA model.
It drove me insane. Yeah. Like I've not played a GTA since 3, and I didn't love 3. I guess I played San Andreas, and I like San Andreas. But did you never play
Vice City?
I never played Vice City.
Vice City.
Well, that is a lie. I have played Vice City, but only Vice City with the multiplayer add-on that allowed us to roam around. Because like those kind of games regularly got played in the office, so we all basically beat each other up in Vice City, and so I didn't actually play Vice City.
I feel like one of the things that you get with Rockstar is you get this. It's this incredibly binary experience between are you doing a thing or are you free roaming?
Yes. Yeah, you're either free roaming or you are doing a mission. You as soon as you accept a mission, you are locked into that mission until you complete it.
And that ruined an otherwise really interesting looking world for me by playing out that way. I expected it to be more Witcher 3.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because what you're losing in freeform wanderability, in concept, you're gaining in like crafted experiences.
That's not what I'm looking for in an open world game.
Well, and also honestly, I tend to not mind it because knowing that it was designed in that way means I know they didn't design it expecting me to pick up lots of quests and do them all at once. So I'm unlikely to miss anything by doing them one at a time like that. So
Yeah.
So it
But
doesn't bother me as much.
It's just like, hey, it's kind of like, I mean, I hate to use terms like vision, but like the vision of the game, that is the vision of the game.
And I guess for me, it's different when I know I'm on a ride. Like, if you play a game like Last of Us, you're on a narrative journey and you will be given just enough set to carry out each step of that narrative journey.
Yeah.
But if you give me a big open world, but then keep trying to put blinders on me, it feels real bad.
It's like it's a theme park. You're going around and getting on rides one by one.
The old theme park versus sandbox.
It's interesting because I'm thinking about the ESO structure kind of in parallel, and how it's broken up into like geographic areas that have stuff going on, and you can choose to pay attention to it, or you can choose to move on to the next area where there's stuff going on.
ESO is a game about painting icons that originally are black, white.
See, when I think about good games that have done the quote-unquote unstructured feeling to them recently, they're still incredibly, they are still meticulously structured. Like, I'm thinking Valheim, where you can say all you want, it's a very free-roaming game, and it lets you feel very free-roaming, but you sure better start in the meadows, go to the Black Forest, go to the swamp, go to the mountains, and then go to the plains.
Yeah.
Well, it's the thing where it's very it is a craft, like it's a crafted experience. It's a crafted experience that drives you to wander.
Valheim's set up a lot like Minecraft, though, because Minecraft is also at least somewhat structured, but like there's a progression path that you're kind of following.
Yeah.
But you can get through that progression path in any way you want. So like, sure, you want to start in the meadows and then you want to go to the dark forest, but like you're sent on that journey because you're looking for a thing. But like you're not actually, like, you don't have to go to any particular dark forest.
But
until it comes down to like, oh, I need the elder. Okay, well, let's try and find where the elder's at.
Well, and if you do try to skip a biome, you're not going to be able to, even if you don't just get flat murdered, you're not going to be able to do much useful in that new biome, because you can't mine copper and tin until you've killed the deer god to be able to make a pickaxe. You can't open the crypts to get to iron until you've killed the elder. You can't make a blast furnace to smelt dark metal until you've killed the dragon. Like,
yeah, it's a very melon snake structure.
But the one difference is that when you kill the deer god, you don't immediately get put on a boat that takes you directly to the Black Forest and tells you should be here now.
Yeah.
You can still direct your own gameplay and stay in the meadow as long as you want.
Yeah, it's
not
pushing you. That's very important. You're right.
And I mean, the same is true with Minecraft. That basically, like, it's a rule-based game, but it's also totally open-ended. Like, you can do anything any way you necessarily want, but like, there are certain gates that prevent you from progressing past them. And, it's like, until you have found iron, there is certain resources that you just can't harvest in Minecraft. So, like, one of your first things is going to be finding a stable source of iron. Like, your first night, you need to make a torch. Well, you're going to either have to burn some wood and make charcoal, or you're going to have to luck into a coal vein. But, like, there's lots of ways to solve that problem. It's just, those are gates that you have to pass through before you can move down the progression path. I mean, and the same has been true for like a lot of the survival games, to where there is an order in which you're following, but it's not necessarily telling you how to do it. You can tackle it in any way you want.
Well,
you just have to end up killing the deer god somehow. Like, I've seen weird solutions to killing the deer god. Like, I've seen people build complex structures that trap the deer god to where they can kill it without it ever dealing any damage to them. Like,
that seems severely over-engineered.
No, seriously, I've seen over-engineered solutions to every single boss. Like, one of them was to dig out a pit, so that the fifth boss falls down into the pit and it can't see you, and then you just slowly plink it to death with arrows, even though it's super resistant to arrows. So, like, there are unique problems that you can, unique solutions to problems. But if you want to go about it that way, sure, go for it. Like,
I mean, I think the most nonsense one of those I saw was the person who couldn't beat, I think it was the Elder, and so built a ramp and put logs on it so they could just roll logs down a hill at it over and over and over again until they dealt enough damage for it to die.
Okay, that's silly.
So they've apparently broke, speaking of Valheim, there were auto stone and wood farms where you basically found a gray dwarf nest and then dug a pit underneath it and filled the pit with fire so that the gray dwarves would spawn, fall into the fire, die, rinse and repeat.
Stone, wood, and resin, yeah.
Yeah, so you get stone, wood, and resin, just tons of it. But I guess in the latest patch they made it so if a fire catches something else on fire, it deals damage to the fire as well.
I mean, there was that video of the guy who created an elder farming thing just solely killing him with fires. So that's probably also relevant. Fire might have been overpowered.
But a lot of the nonsense I've gotten up to in Minecraft has been building weird ways to farm resources. Like my horrible meat holes.
Let's not speak of those.
Look, you can only have 24 entities in one spot at the same time.
Didn't PETA come after you about those?
No, but somebody did post on my YouTube videos that was like, please let the cows and chickens go free. No, that's for science.
It's probably some poor child watching Minecraft videos and you're just horrified
by my meat hole. Grace first called them a meat hole, so that's what they're called now.
I mean, I don't know anything else to call them.
For anybody who didn't listen to that episode way back when, Minecraft has this thing called entity crushing, to where if a new thing spawns in and there's already 24 of a thing in that area, it kills off the oldest one in the stack. You can also make cows mate and spawn more cows. So every so often you feed the meat hole and it kills off a bunch of cows, which allows it to drop into a hopper, which collects the steak and the leather. You need a lot of leather to make books for an enchanting area.
It's just a little horrifying.
The fried chicken machine, though, is the most brilliant one. It is not my design. But it basically
was at least entertaining.
It was so great.
The fact that it's fried chicken that it ends up producing
it was so amazing, because like you've got a hopper of adult chickens, and periodically chickens lay eggs, and then that would fall into a dispenser that would rapidly hurl the egg. And for whatever reason, the behavior in Minecraft is when you throw an egg, there's a 1 in 10 chance of spawning a chicken.
I mean, isn't that how it works in real life?
So you're basically collecting these eggs, hurling them at a wall. 1 in 10 spawns a chicken. The chickens live in this other little area, and when they grow up, they become tall enough to trigger a thing that releases lava at the top of the chamber. So only the adult chickens get burned. And if you catch a chicken on fire, when it dies, it will drop fried chicken instead of raw chicken.
Logically.
It was the greatest thing. And like you could just hear it firing off every so often. And it gave me lots and lots of feathers to turn into arrows, because farming chickens for feathers is a pain in the ass. Anyway, I don't know how we ended up here, but we did. And that's probably time. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.
Good
Thank you, Thalen.